Welcome back. And we're continuing the Hearts of Iron 4 tutorials for the Barbarossa version. No Step Back. I have all the download content except for the No Step Back one. And where we left off is army orders. So now we're going to go to air orders. So if we hit F3, it suddenly changes to the air view. And you can see the airport with all of your units. And there's an airport in the south as well that has no units. And we've got a bunch up here as well. We can select a bunch of air units all at once, similar to how you can with the army one. You just, drag and drop, and you can pick them all. Boom, and they're all now selected. Now, over here, it tells you what type of unit it is. This is a fighter unit, and the majority of the fighters in it are Fiat CR-32s. This is a tactical bomber unit with Caproni CA-101s. This is another fighter unit with Fiat CR-32s, another tactical bomber one, a naval bomber, another naval bomber unit, tactical bomber, more fighters, more tactical bombers. And it tells you how many units there are. There are currently 80 fighters in this unit, and there's 80 assigned to it. So what can happen is that this unit has 80 units in it and 80 assigned to it. Let's say these guys are fighting up in the air, they're doing ground support, intercepting enemy bombers, and a couple of them get shot down. So temporarily what will happen is this number will reduce, but it'll still show 80. So it'll still have 80 people assigned to it, 80 planes, even though there's only currently 78 in the unit. Now what'll happen is when reinforcements occur, if we have some spare fighters that are sitting somewhere in the back, and we may or may not have, that pilot may have survived or not, depending on if he got to parachute out or not, he may be able to get back in, and a new plane will join, and they'll just reinforce and be back to 80, and we'll lose 2 from our stockpile. If we don't have any in the stockpile, it's just going to sit there with 78, and our unit will basically be telling us that, hey, we need more fighters. So you can change the numbers in here. If you just click, it actually allows you. I can go, hey, I want to assign 120 units to this. Or you can slide the bar. I want to assign so that we have 352 in this unit. And you can do that. Now the thing is that when you build fighters, they're going to start pumping them into this, assigned, because it goes, oh, we're short a lot of fighters here. We need to set more in here. So it can do that. You can also change the replacement priority. So we can go high priority, medium priority, low priority. And you'll notice that it does this with all of the selected units. So if I go like this, it does it to all of them because they're all currently selected. If I go to low, they all go to low. If I just want to change one, I can just select that one and turn it to high or turn it to low. Similarly, if I just want to change certain things, it'll bring it back down. It won't let you go below the number of jets that are there, or it will, but it'll say if you do this, some airplanes will be returned to the reserves and you'll lose those pilots. They'll basically be not trained anymore. So that tells how their fighting strength level is at full, because they're useful at that. Now if you want to give them an order, you can select them and you can say, okay, I want these guys running the air superiority mission and I want them to do interception mission. They're not allowed to do close air support because they don't have any bombs or anything on them. They can't do any strategic bombing. They can't go and do naval strikes or kamikaze strikes or port strikes. Those are not missions that are available to them because they're just fighters. They don't have the capability to do that. If we go to the bomber, on the other hand, he can't do the air superiority or the interception because he doesn't have that capability. But he can do close air support, bombing the enemy tanks. He can go after the enemy factories. He can go after enemy ships or enemy ports. So, there are other options that become available to you. He can't do air recon, he can't do naval mine sweeping, he can't do naval mine laying or air supply. So certain units have different features. Naval bombers Well, they can't do any of the air superiority, they can't do any of the ground bombing, they can't do any strategic bombing, but yes, they're very specialized at going after the ports and after the ships at sea. And that's the missions that they can do. What else do we want to look at here? Okay, this column here is their engagement level. So if you click this, when this guy's selected, there's 3 settings. There's no retreat, which means they'll just keep flying mission no matter the casualties. Or you can set them on normal operations, and they'll only fly missions if the wings are at 25% strength. So if they drop to less than 12 naval bombers left in this unit, they'll stop flying missions. They'll abort and they'll just go back. And then when they get back up to 12, then they'll start flying again. So that's what that does. If they're, 25% strength, they'll go ahead and do it. If they're not, they won't. There's also low intensity, where they'll only attack if they have 50% strength in their units. So you can set those different settings for how often you want them to go. You can also set when they fly. This means they can fly missions day and night, or you can have them fly only during the day, or you can have them only flying at night. Now, one mission that I usually will have them do is I'll have them go on normal operations and day, and I'll just have them go and do pilot exercises. And this is where I'm going to want to do that shift when I do it, because I don't want them to train beyond getting this, rookie's level up to experienced and then up to regular. I don't want them to keep going afterwards, because when people are practicing an aircraft, if they make a mistake, you probably lose the pilot and the aircraft. They're going to lose planes on you, and then you have to build them new ones, or which can get costly. So if you're going to send them on piloting exercises, now as it happens, there's another trick you can use here. This button here allows you to split the selected air wing in 2. So you can go boom, and now you've got 2 units of 24, and you can do it again. Now you've got 4 units of 12, and you can do it again. Now you've got a bunch of units of 6. Now as it happens, if the number of airplanes in a particular unit is under 8, so like up to 7, the chances of them having an accident when doing piloting are way lower than if you're doing it with like 32 or with 80. So what I will often do is I'll split them all up in the beginning. So for instance, I'm just going to combine these all back up into one. There's a select all button, which allows me to select all those selected units again. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to split them down, break them down. Some of them are still above. We'll deselect the ones that are at the 6 level already. These ones are at the 5 levels. We'll deselect them, and we'll break them down even further. Right? Oops, I broke them the other way. Select all, merge. I'll give them all these orders for the fighters, and those orders for those ones, and those orders for the other ones. And we'll set them all on maximum. And what this does is your fighters will all be using the fighters, your bombers will be doing all of the bombing missions. We can probably take those off, because you probably only want them doing one. Same with this. It'll give them all the missions that they can do, and you may not want them to do all of the missions, depending on where they're flying. So, but yeah, that's how you can do the selecting, how you can break them down. You can also go ahead and break a unit into separate groupings. So if I wanted, you can do it one by one by clicking this. You can hold down Control and it'll do 10 at a time. You can hold down Shift, it'll do 100 at a time. Or you can use this button to move them all. So if I want to move all of them over, I can do that, or all of them back. If I want to do 40 at a time, like I can do 10 at a time. Now I have 40 over here, 40 over here. And we'll want to break this down back to 40. Otherwise it'll want to fill it up. Now we've got 40, 40, 40, 40, and okay, and now we have 2 units. It's the same as if we had just hit the split the select area wing in 2. So I do it again, and now I've got 4 of 20. I do it again. I've got 8 of 10. Do it again. I've got 16 of 5. I can now give all of these ones this and go ahead and say, hey, I want them all to do piloting exercises. And that's essentially what you can do by going all those things. Now let's go back over here to where the combat was. Now over here we have these units. We got 40 fighters, 32 tactical bombers, and 48 close air support. We're going to want them all to just engage. We're not going to bother training them up, and all you need to do is give them orders. So boom, boom. The enemy doesn't have any aircraft, so you don't even need to bother with the intercept mission. So we just select these 2, so they'll do air superiority, which will basically be strafing and doing stuff, and close air support, which will be attacking the ground. And then you'll want them to fly the mission in the East Africa zone, so we just right click, and now they're flying a mission. We've got 40 doing air superiority, and we've got 80 doing close air support. Those 48 plus those 32. And they're just going to be bombing and doing runs on the enemy. And they'll keep doing that until you tell them to stop. If you want them to stop, you just go up here and say hold air wings, and they'll stop that order. Now they're back standing by, and if I want to give them the order again, I just right click again because they're selected. If I don't want them to, I can turn it off. I can give them different orders. I can say, hey, I want these 40 to go flying over here, and I want these 32 to go flying over here, but these 48, I want them to do bombing out here in this C zone. So they're going to go flying and doing some, let's do some air attacks over in this zone, or over here, wherever we want, over here, wherever they can get to, right? They can fly to different places. Now it'll show certain areas as lined that they can't get to because they're too far away. Like they can't fly up into Egypt, for instance, from there. They don't have enough range. They can't fly into this area or out to this coast, but they could fly over to here, and get in there. Couldn't get to the Persian Gulf, but yeah. Anyways, we want them to attack over there too. So they're now all flying in East Africa. We do want to make sure they're all doing the right missions. They're doing ground superiority. They're doing ground. Oh, they're on the wrong mission. So let's turn that off and put on that one. And there we go. And it shows you here, this is the mission that they're on, right? Like when you look, you can actually see that they're on a naval mission, even though they're flying over East Africa. So this won't be very effective. And you can even have them out there flying over East Africa with no mission, which makes them more than useless. They're basically just flying over, zooming over and turning around and coming back. So you need to give them an order. If you don't give them an order, you'll get this. Air wings with no mission or region assigned. So you'll get a warning, and obviously we will have some over here that are not currently doing anything. But that's basically the gist of it. If you want to delete and disband air wings, you can do this. It will send their pilots and their planes back to the stockpile. So you'll lose all of the experience that the unit had as a cohesive group. So it's, generally you don't want to do this unless it's like they're at, 48 of their fighter or of their, close air support has all been shot down and it's now 0 of 48. There's no point in keeping it around. You could delete it in a case like that, but that's what that does. You can deselect if you just don't want to select that unit anymore. You can also hit escape. Escape will allow you to get out of there as well. If you want to come back to them, you can pick them individually, or you can pick the whole airfield and it will select them all for you. So, and that's basically the gist of the air missions. If we want to go back and look at the combat, you hit F1 to go back over to the ground. So F1 is ground, F3 is air, F2 is naval, F4 is supply. So if you want to see the supply chain, you've got some supplies that are coming from here and they're being shipped out. You don't have much supply out this way because it's so far from your airbase, unless you were to change the units to trucks. These guys are pretty good in supply around here. It starts to get a little bit worse when you get further away. And as they start moving further and further into Ethiopia, it'll actually get worse as well. Which is also one thing I forgot to show you in the last video, but I'll come back to that in another video about supply. But those are just an overview of that. So that's enough for this video, and I'll come back with another one next time.